I wanted to stay in Dallas and have Christmas with my children and grandchildren. But at 97, Aunt Louise couldn't be left alone. They say as we age, we get more like ourselves, and she had. Aunt Louise was what Kentucky people call a caution to the wildcats. She had her own way, and she would have it entirely. And so the people who took care of her had been hard to come by because her reputation preceded her, and finding people who would take care of her was hard to do. And I knew if I didn't give those sainted people some days off, they'd all quit, and where would I find people to replace them? I might have to come there and spend 365 days a year with the dear old soul. I came down the mountain parkway, made that hard left, the point my children call leaving civilization, because that's where your cell phone goes black and it doesn't come on again until you reach that spot on your way home to Texas. I passed the Mid-South electric plant, or what was left of it. It had burned to the ground. Not one brick standing on another one. I thought, hard times. Not many jobs up here in Appalachia to begin with. Mid-South electric gone. Hard times. And I headed up the road that runs parallel to the South Fork of the Kentucky River. I knew that the chief caregiver, Betty, would be standing on the back porch looking for my car. And so I thought that if I was going to visit anybody, I better do it before I arrived home. Stopped off to see Uncle Mike and Aunt Margie. Told Uncle Mike I was going to make Christmas dinner for me and Aunt Louise, and if he wanted me to, I'd make Christmas dinner for him and Aunt Margie too. He said he never had cared much for turkey. Aunt Margie said, "Shut up." I said, thinking the grocery store might still be open, "Uncle Mike, if you could have anything you wanted for Christmas, what would you want?" He said, "Well, young'un, if I could have what I wanted, I'd have fried squirrel and hot biscuits and squirrel gravy." Aunt Margie said, "Shut up." And I got in the car and drove on up to the home place. And I was wrong about Betty. She wasn't standing on the back porch looking for my car. She was standing right beside her car. And she threw gravel all over me getting out of there. I had been in the house long enough to be thinking about killing Aunt Louise. 15 minutes, maybe 20. Excuse me. When there was a knock at the door and I went to open it, there was Alfred Harrell. I was as surprised to see him as he was surprised to see me. See, when I was little, Alfred Harrell was my older brother's closest friend. And whatever those two boys were up to, I was always on the receiving end of it. So to tell you the God's honest truth, I never had much use for Alfred Harrell. He said, "I want to talk to Tom." I said, "Tom's not here." He said, "Pickup truck, Texas plates in the driveway. I want to talk to your brother Tom." I said, "My pickup truck, my Texas plates, Tom's not here." And then remembering it was Christmas, I thought, well, I could take a message to my brother when I get home. I said, "Alfred, if Tom had been here, what would you have said?" He said, "Well, the Mid-South plant burned to the ground." I said, "I saw it as it came by." He said, "If your brother had been here, I'd ask him for the loan of $20. I said, "I see." "No, you don't. You remember my daughter, Becky?" I said, "Sure, I remember Becky." "Well, she come home. She's been living in Cincinnati. We weren't expecting her. She's a good mama. She had presents for the baby, but she couldn't bring them." I said, "How long can she stay?" He said, "I ain't letting her go back." And all of a sudden, I heard what he had said with my woman's ears. We weren't expecting her. She had presents. She couldn't bring them. I ain't letting her go back. I said, "How bad did he hurt her, Alfred?" He said, "Bad enough. I'm going to kill him, but I have to wait till I get my check." I thought that might be the most true Appalachian statement I ever heard in my life. Now, I headed for the kitchen because I know that in Appalachia, the baby doesn't mean an infant. It's just the youngest member of the family. They were still calling me the baby, and I was 65 years old that year. I got a 20 out of my wallet. I said, Alfred, wouldn't you rather earn this than have to return it? Sure, what do you want me to do? I said, I want you to go up to the head of the holler and kill me 2 good fat red squirrels. And if you skin them out for me, I'll give you $5 more. He said, you'd give me $25 for 2 red squirrels? You've been living in the city for a long time. I said, no, please, Alfred, I mean it. He said, can't do it. That land, it belongs to your aunt. Nobody can hunt up there. Mike Moore spent 5 days in jail in it about 2 years back. Can't go to jail, it's too close to Christmas. I said, well, half that land always belonged to my mama. But Aunt Louise was the bully and always told my mama what to do. And now half that land belongs to me. I am sure that on my part, they're good fat red squirrels. I figure on her part, it's probably along the ridge up there, and they're probably polecats and skunks up there on her part. But on my part, I'm sure they're red squirrels. He said, well, if I won't go to jail, I'll get them for you. Thank you. And he walked down the sidewalk, but I had an idea. I said, Alfred, why don't you kill a turkey for your family? Well, all right, he said, and he walked a little further, and then he turned back. You remember my brother Roscoe? I said, sure, I remember Roscoe real good. He said, Roscoe worked at Mid-South. Could Roscoe have a turkey for his family? I said, you tell your brother Roscoe that Elizabeth said he could come here on my land and shoot a deer. Roscoe gets a deer, and I get a turkey. I said, who do you think always came back and untied me? And he walked off laughing. I'd given Aunt Louise a good bath. I told her because it was Christmas Eve, she could open one present. She told me it was a cruel thing to open a Christmas present before Christmas, but that didn't keep her from tearing all the paper off the box. She pronounced the flannel pajamas that I'd bought for her the ugliest ones she'd ever seen in her life, but she let me put them on her. I was watching her eat, and I thought, at 97, you can get completely worn out before you get full. And I started trying to give her bites between the ones she was managing to get in her mouth. And I made a mental note to myself to talk to Betty about helping her get full. I was washing the dishes when Alfred knocked on the door again. Not only had he killed me 3 good fat red squirrels, he had cut them up and set them to soaking in salt water. And I was glad he did that because it had been so long since I cooked a squirrel, I don't think I would have remembered to do that. Takes a gamey taste away. I said, Alfred, I've been thinking about this ever since you were here. How many people that live in our end of the county worked at Mid-South? He said, me and Roscoe, about a dozen. I said, I want you to call every one of those men and tell them I said they could come here to my land and shoot a deer. But I don't want anybody hunting on my land that I don't know. So you're going to have to go with every one of them when they do their hunting. Well, I can do that, he said. They need the meat. I said, all right, have you got a place to butcher? He said, yeah, we got a real good setup across the road at Mama's house. Hogs or deer, whatever you need. We got it all fixed up nice. I said, some of these people live in trailers. You reckon your mom would care if they came and butchered at her house? Lord, no, he said, she'd be glad to have the company. I said, then as soon as they get the butchering done, I want them to give half the meat away. He said, who would they give it to? I don't care. Old people like Uncle Mike and Aunt Margie that can't hunt for themselves anymore. Maybe some woman that's got a house full of children and no man to help her put food on the table. I don't rightly care who it is as long as it's somebody that needs the meat. He said, well, let me make sure I got all this right. I got to call them and tell them, everyone, they can come and take a deer. But I got to go with them when they do their hunting. That's right, Alfred. We're going to butcher at Mama's house. That's right, Alfred. But they have to give half the meat away. That's right, Alfred. To somebody who needs the meat. That's right. Like somebody who used to go off and leave them tied up to the trunk of a tree. That's right, Alfred. Merry Christmas.